Well, the greatest massacre in all U.S. history, and you're thinking about the Orlando school, the shooting, or maybe what happened in Sandy Hook. But let me put it to you this way: it wasn't that. It was actually perpetrated by the government against the American Native peoples in this country. Those are the greatest massacres. Now, I don't even think this would be the greatest massacre if we want to look at what happened at Wounded Knee in 1890. 4 days after Christmas, by the way, perpetrated by Christian Army people of the 7th Cavalry, commanded by Major Samuel W. Whiteside. He's the one that actually went after the American natives and killed hundreds of disarmed Lakota in North Dakota, South Dakota, I believe it was. What happened was they were unarmed. They went to disarm them. And even if they had weapons, if they didn't have weapons, they were slaughtered by the American cavalry. Now, this is really when you're talking about, we talk about genocide, and I'm talking about in the future what could possibly happen. And I put this out on a video before, and YouTube didn't like the fact that I put the word genocide. Come on, man. Look what happened to the American Native peoples in this country. Now, my contention is we're all on a reservation now. Us whites, blacks, Orientals, people from other parts of the world that are all here in the United States, we're all on a reservation. The government owns our ass. If you don't pay your fees, you don't pay your taxes, they do what? They do what? Here we have Sitting Bull with Buffalo Bill, and at times they thought everything was fine with was going on until later. The 7th Cavalry moved in, and they perpetrated a massacre against Sitting Bull, I'm showing here. And what resulted in mass graves. This is predating Nazi Germany by about 50 years. Over 50 years. This was in 1890. And it's sick because it's December 29th. These are all Christians that did this. Christians. People are born and baptized in Christianity on the fourth day of Christmas, December 39th, December 29th, 1890. What does that tell you? And here's Sitting Bull now, dead, frozen in the ground. And what's it over? Indian land for sale. Perfect title. Possession within 30 days. Fine lands in the West. Right? They're selling what? What's going to happen in the future to America after America's disarmed? Don't tell me this won't happen. Because, as they say in F Troop or whatever, white men speak with forked tongue. There's no doubt. But that's not all the white men doing it. But it's the ones that are in government, the ones on the top, the ones that are running our lives. Here we have, and this body count probably isn't even correct. It says there was more than 150 men, women, and children of the Lakota that had been killed, and 51 were wounded. And others of the 51 wounded, others died later on. But some estimates place the number of dead at 300. Now, let me tell you this. I think it is 300 because I don't think anybody was bothering to count. And you see what was going on there. There was a mass grave. There wasn't like an individual grave for every Lakota that died. No, they're all thrown in the pit. Now, these kind of massacres were not the only kind of massacres that occurred. There's various massacres that happened, even with the Nez Perce. And I'll give the example of them, the Nez Perce in the Northwest USA. What happened? And I'll show this picture because Indian land for sale. And this is really what happened. They put them on a reservation. They took most of their lands. The Nez Perce peacefully agreed to it. Okay, this is our land. You can have all the other land, even though that was ours. Then they decided to take 3/4 of that land from the Nez Perce. Later on, the white man. I'm white, but I hate to say this, but, it's like I'm not embarrassed about me being white, but it's like these jerks on the top that are white that are pulling all these rules. I'm against them. Like, I don't feel like I have no guilt because they did something. But what happened was they took 3/4 of that reservation because Then they found on the 125% left of the reservation, of the original reservation, which that original reservation was much smaller than the Nez Perce land that they originally had. The Nez Perce actually helped Lewis and Clark survive on their expedition. What happened after that? They had 25% of the land. They found gold on it. The white man found gold. I don't know how they found gold on there, because they must have went on their land illegally and they found gold. They took 90% of that. 90% of the 25%. So some of the Nez Perce fought back. Not all of them. Some. So basically then they wanted to freaking remove them from all the lands or kill them. And they wanted to bring them to Oklahoma, which was considered, that was called the Indian Territory. The only reason they moved the American Indians over to, the American Native peoples over to that land, was because it was considered a worthless desert. The lands of the Cherokee in northern Georgia and southern Tennessee was lush, green, forested, streams and hills full of vegetation and wildlife. When you went to Oklahoma, it was desert, right? Now, that was taken away from them, too, with the Oklahoma land rush. That whole state was the reservation before, not the little thing on the corner in the northeast corner of the state, as it is today. That whole state was the Indian reservation. Now, I'm bringing this up because we're going to have a massacre in the United States in the future if we get disarmed, because the globalists are going to freaking give away what's here to other people in other parts of the world that are elitist. You don't think that'll happen? YouTube, you don't think that'll happen? I'm fighting on your side too, YouTube, because I know sometimes when I get, you say these things, it sounds a little outlandish in a way. It does. Because, how can that happen? But you know what? Nobody believed what can happen. I know, I'll give the example again with the Nazis, but nobody believed that they can be that extreme. Well, we see what extremism is. There's a lot of extremism. But we've had extremism in this country against the American Native peoples. Now, what happened with the Nez Perce eventually? There were the remaining people that were on the 10% of the land of the 25% of the whole, which was like a reservation, which was only part of their land, was reduced to 25%, then reduced to 10% of that. They got knocked off that land. They were going to be relocated to Oklahoma. So they ran. They ran through Montana. They got within 32 miles of the Canadian border. They were tired. The U.S. federal troops caught up with them, and they went to war with them. They wouldn't let them escape across to Canada and let them live in peace. No, they wouldn't let them do that. They killed over half of them, and they sent the remaining ones back to Oklahoma. Very few of them survive today. It was the Holocaust. Am I a liberal? No, not exactly. But I believe in justice, for crying out loud. Is that blatantly freaking criminal what the U.S. government did? Yeah. So who actually committed the biggest genocides in this country already, to date? U.S. government. There's a lot of suspicion that I talked about this company G4S that used to be Walking Hut from, that Omar Mateen belonged to, was a member of. And it was loaded with former, CIA, NSA, and FBI, like Clarence Kelly, former head of the FBI. Was it Bobby Inman of the NSA, former director of the NSA, and also, which is Frank Carlucci of the CIA. I mean, I don't want to rehash what I went over in other videos, but I could have been a government set up to disarm people. There's been a lot of trickery that went against the American Native peoples to make them look like, I know the American Native peoples didn't do everything sweet and wonderful all the time, but there's been a lot of trickery against them to make it look like they did the problem first so we could have the war. If a few of them did something, they declare war against all of them. It's almost like our government, because I guess, I don't even know if this guy, I don't even know what happened here exactly with this Orlando thing, the Orlando shooting, if it went down exactly how it went or what. But if somebody does something, they put a rule against anybody. But in the meantime, the government's getting more and more armed left and right. I mean, practically all the agencies of the government got all kinds of weapons now. They used to never have them before. They got to have them, right? For what? For what? And the government just keeps getting bigger and bigger. But this is what happened to us, just like what happened to the Lakota, if we don't watch. So the greatest massacres in the USA have already occurred. Don't let them fool you. Don't let them fool you. And they had cannons and everything. They were firing down. Hotchkiss cannon, firing down on the Native American Indians. They just slaughtered the hell out of them, man. Of course you fight back. Then they label them as terrorists, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. I know. I can't say this in the public anymore because politically. What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm telling the absolute truth. I mean, it's actually what I'm saying here actually has a civil rights liberal twist to it. At the same time, it almost sounds conservative in a way. It's got both elements, really. But the elements I'm pulling out from the liberal side and the conservative side each, because I'm actually advocating for advocating for the causes of the American Native Indians and all these injustices that were done against them, and at the same time, I'm taking more, champion conservative things where everybody has the right to defense. It's a mixture, really. So, what can I tell you? The truth is really, parts of what the liberals say and parts of what the conservatives say. I'm using common sense. Well, looking at past history, we got the facts here already. We do have the facts. And it looked like Sitting Bull was going to get along fine. I mean, everything was going to be fine with the white man. But I don't trust them. I don't trust anybody in government. I don't trust anybody that gets paid by government anymore. They're all part of the crooked apparatus. And it's a matter of, the legal system has actually become far more criminal than the criminals. That's exactly what's going on. But that's what's been going on a long time. And really, why did the white man even move west? You might say partly it was gold. That might have been part of the reason. But usually what the reason was? Because people from Europe went to America first in colonies. Get away from all the stupid rules, the draconian dictatorships that were, the dukes and the counts and all this other stuff, the nobility, that were everybody else was a serf and a slave for them. They got away from that to be free. And then eventually in the East, once it got more established, these same kind of scumbags from Europe came over here, start instituting all the rules, start making it life more unbearable for people to live in the East. So they got the hell out. They started moving west to get the hell away from them. Then he encountered an American Native Indian, and I guess the people that were initial settlers with the American Native Indians weren't really having a major problem for the most part. It really came into being when business got involved. And business being in bed with government, and that's when, they decided, let's take the lands away from the American Native Indians because we got, some kind of resources here we need, whether it's buffalo hides or gold or whatever the hell it is, or lands for farming or grazing or cattle, and they took it away from them. But usually, even with the average white, why they were moving west, it wasn't just to take over the American Indians' land. It was to get the hell away from the bullshit that's going on back east. So I don't know what the hell's going to happen here in the future, but probably the best thing to do would probably be adapt, the American Native Indian ways, and watch out for what the hell's going to happen in the future with the white man, because I can tell you that you can't trust it. You can't trust what the hell's going on. Not at all. Not at all. Sitting Bull found out, and they stole all their lands from them. It's quite obvious. I mean, you look back in the papers in the time, Indian land for sale, get a home of your own, easy payments, perfect title and possession within 30 days, find lands in the West, irrigation, irrigable, grazing, agricultural, dry farming. Take their lands. Don't think that can't happen to us U.S. citizens by the global system, by the United Nations that wants to disarm us. It can happen. Oh, I guarantee it's gonna happen. What can I tell you? If you allow it to happen, we gotta fight. We gotta fight together against this bullshit, and quit supporting the New York Times. I'm gonna actually get on to other videos how even on the internet, if you're looking at, if you want to make a comment about an article that these major publications put out, they want your Twitter account, you want your Facebook account, they want access to it, they want rights to post stuff on it, repost what you say. They want almost everything except your damn password to your account. And that's the major media controlling even the airwaves on the internet. So the only way you're going to freaking fight that is if people turn away from the major media on the internet. But you know what's going on there. They're making it tougher for people like that, get supported by advertising like on YouTube because of ad block and all that other bullshit. The major media is not freaking subjected to that. If they have, they got ways which I'm surprised YouTube doesn't have. Well, I already went over that shit before. I think ad block's a nefarious plan to freaking knock out the independent publishers or slow them down a lot. Although I'll keep fighting like a son of a bitch anyway. But let me put it to you this way: most of the people aren't. Most people aren't. That's just how it is. Because actually that doesn't affect the Times and the big papers out there that are online. It doesn't affect them at all because they got other ways they run their ads and other things they do. So anyway, just want to put this out because keep it in perspective and just remember our American history in this country where people were killed by the U.S. government that were native born, that lived here for hundreds of years, that established treaties with the United States, and they were broken. I can't really say the white man speaks with forked tongue. It's actually the U.S. government speaks with forked tongue, plain and simple.